What is popping, y'all? What's good? What's good? This is Ashley Savage. You are turned into the Performance Temple broadcast. This is an unlisted interactive jam. So, I asked a couple of questions on Instagram today, and I want to go through them. I want to talk about them, and I want to jam about them. Jamming for me, it's like two things coming together and kind of creating something else. So like jam, jelly. We are taking strawberries, or we're taking something and creating a jellified sequence. So can we find some gel, right? So this morning I asked a question on Instagram, and I asked it in a very specific way. I asked, what do you believe you need to learn in the context of pole? I didn't ask about thinking, because there's a lot of not knowing in thinking. I wanted to get down to, what do you believe that you need, right? Like, what is it that you need? Like, what do you believe, like deep down knowing that you need? So there were a lot of answers, and some of the answers I really need clarity around, because I just didn't want to assume what people were talking about, because I think a lot of times we can all be using the same words but meaning different things. So I didn't want to assume anything. So I asked a couple of questions in response to people giving me their answers. And there was a response, maybe the first response, about, and I don't want to quote, so let me pull it up real quick. The response was to the question, what do you believe you need to learn in the context of pole? It was about consistency. And they said consistency when it comes to shape, variations, and combinations. And so I asked for a little bit more clarity. I was like, say more. Give me some more, so I can really grasp what it is that you saying. And they said consistency when it comes to shapes and combination variations. Yesterday, I watched this girl get into the split that you taught me from a leg hang. I guess I'm saying there's so many variations from basic shapes that I am unaware of and unsure how to go about finding them, so I can explore them in a consistent mannerism. I know it's about finding a shape and then identifying the ways to get into it, but how, when everyone teaches beginner focus on the core shapes and not leveling them up? All right. So let's maybe spend 5 to 10 minutes on this concept, and just kind of working through maybe some answers, because the context of this question is, what they believe that they need is, they need a way to explore basic shapes or fundamental core skills in a way that levels them up, or advances them, or creates more capacity to do more advanced things. When everyone teaches beginner focuses on the core shapes and not doing that. So let's establish what's the truth. The truth is, for a lot of people, and this may not be true for you, but the truth is, for a lot of people, beginner classes, and the way in which beginner classes are created based on levels. And in order for you to go to the next thing, you have to have, a certain amount of skills, or a certain predetermined skill set, in order for you to advance to the next level. And this is programmed this way by studios in particular, and by people who are have been doing pole, because it's how it's been for, I don't know, for a long time, since X pole certifications, because X pole certifications lay out uh, skill sets in a leveled manner, and that's how they decide what people should be learning. So that's usually uniformly sometimes how studios teach it, or how teachers teach it. And I think the reason why there is not a lot of people who teach that, or who claim to say this, claim to teach transitions or combinations, is because it's localized. I mean, it's localized based on where you live, the studio that you go to, and the genre, or even the business model that studio is following. Because if your studio is following a choreography type of methodology where everything is choreo, and they need to make the choreo accessible enough for the class, they're going to make that assessment based on the, like, where the class is as a collective skill set, right? Like, if everyone doesn't understand what a split grip is, then they may not put a whole bunch of split grips in the choreo. If everyone doesn't understand how to do an inside leg hang, they're not going to put a lot of inside leg hang transitions into the combination, right? So, and I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people, it's not that deep for them. It is not that deep for them to know how to do 50 million variations of one trick. For most people, they want to have a pretty expansive skill set that incorporates all of the basic core moves, right? And they want to be able to perform all of the basic core moves and a couple of transitions into and out of them, and just kind of focus on that and be able to do that, right? For a lot of people, it's really not that deep. And I'm saying that not as that's what I believe, but I'm saying that as of recent, that has been brought to my attention, that it's really not that deep, or people don't actually want to spend a significant amount of time on one shape, or one trick, or one skill, or one dance methodology, or one dance technique, or one dance skill set, and spend a significant amount of time. When I say significant, I mean more than a month, maybe more than 2 months, maybe more than 3 months, just finding pathways, finding transitions, finding evolutions, innovations, just off that one trick. Most people don't want that. Most people don't want to practice the same thing every time they come to class, because they get, I don't know, why wouldn't someone want to practice the same thing when they come to class, especially if they're paying, hundreds of dollars. And I think that has become an issue with me in being a teacher, is that being a teacher is different than being a student, because you have to manage student expectations, and you have to kind of have some sort of sixth sense about student expectations. And a lot of times, I mean, it wasn't until recently that I honestly even had the gumption to really be like, oh yeah, these people want to spend more than a month on one single trick, just learning all the variations, all the grips, all the different ways to get in, to enter, to exit, all the different ways to zhuzh it up, and to explore it from a perspective of, I'm not the person that knows everything. You're the person that's experiencing the thing. So how do I facilitate you in your exploration, and doing that in a safe way? Because there may be some things that your body can do that my body can do, or there may be some things that I can lead you to show you and be like, hey, there's this that's available if you do this, and you can try it. So to answer the question about, or to answer, or to provide some springboarding about where do you go to practice, or to level up your shape variations. Options. You can do privates with people and say, look, I want to focus on this one thing, and I want you to teach me all the ways that you know. You can do that, or you can find people that you want to learn from, and you can have that interaction with them to see if like have an interaction with them, ask them questions about their classes, ask them if they're teaching variations, ask them if they're how many variations are they teaching, and see if the class is more of something that is kind of set in stone, some sort of combination or some sort of choreography that's set in stone, or whether it is a more ad-libbed, improvisational, exploration, experiential class where the combinations are left more open-ended, or the skill threading is left open-ended, or the sequencing is left open-ended for you to play around with and see how you transition into different things, right? And so that provides you, there are different teachers that have different styles of teaching, and not just like style like aesthetic, but like style like, this is the way in which my class is structured, this is the way in which I expect students to learn certain things. I can speak for the classes that I've taken under the teachers that I've taken, and for the teachers that I've taken, my learning environment has to be explorative, experiential, and open-ended. So yeah, I may start off learning a base concept, base skill, right? But I need for my teacher to provide lots of variations, and not just like lots of variations in terms of them being able to demonstrate the variations, but I need them to be proficient enough in teaching me the basic, so much so that my body just goes in different directions, right? And I'm able to trust myself that I understand the mechanics, and I understand the sensations, and I understand the meaning that they're trying to get me to realize in my body as I'm doing the thing, right? So I hope that provides some context to how to create consistency, to learn or to advance from basic or core moves. You got to find a teacher that facilitates those things. And then a lot of times the teachers that facilitate those type of things, they're not going to be explicit about what exactly they're teaching, and they're not going to be choreos. They're not going to be they're not going to give you something to look at and be like, I want you to do it exactly like this. It's not going to be that type of game. It's going to be you in class pretty much over a series of time, playing with the thing. I will say most of the time you'll experience that type of learning in series classes. So things that are long term, not just one class, because it is pretty much very hard to teach variation in a short amount of time. I see shit on Instagram all the time where it's like, oh, 3 ways to do this or 3 ways to do that. And like, okay, like, I think that those are good springboards. But when we talk about like meaning and transitioning and gripping and body placement and things like that, like, you need way more time and you need way more attention in a closed setting, and you need eyes on you, because it's very hard to do assessment of yourself. It's very hard to do assessment of yourself if you haven't even learned that part of practicing, or that part of dancing. How do you assess and make changes in real time of yourself without a mirror or without a teacher? So even learning how to assess yourself and how to make changes in class is something that you will only learn from a specific type of teacher that teaches a specific type of way. And it's not going to be something where it's predetermined, what your choreography or your combination or your end, where the end is, right? They'll give you a starting point, but they're not going to tell you end right here. They're going to leave that open ended for you to finish the sentence. Okay. So we spent a lot of time on that question, but I think it answered a lot of questions. There was people who said that they believe they needed to learn weight transfer, and better muscle engagement, stopping muscling through tricks. And I think that's something that, is ongoing for me, especially as I progress, is what else is there to pull tricks besides strength? What else is available for me to build or to learn or to become knowledgeable about, besides being strong enough to do something? Because at this point, I'm strong enough to do a lot of tricks. I can do a lot of tricks. And I think there are people who believe that they're not strong enough to do certain things, because I think, um, you know, there's just a generalization about what it takes to do or to be able to execute certain tricks. And I look at people sometimes and I'm like, you could absolutely do this. It has nothing to do with strength. And so I definitely am thinking about putting something together about maybe some sort of self study around what else is there to condition the trick besides strength. Uh, Other responses to what do you believe you need to learn were about fluidity. Oh, and I loved this question because fluidity is such a concept that has a lot of meaning to different people. And so the questions that I asked to try to get more clarity around, well, what do you mean by fluidity? Because I want to be able to understand people. I want to be able to not assume or ascribe my own meaning, because I have learned that we all have different definitions and we all have different names for things, and we all have come in with a preloaded bias about certain stuff. So I'm be like, at this point, when I'm asking questions or when I'm talking to the pole community at large in mass, I have to be curious and I have to be sort of naive in a sense, because I want to know that we're on the same page, right? So if we're on the same page about what we're talking about, then I can kind of give a response. So the question was, what do you believe you need to learn? And the response was more leg hang variations and fluidity when it comes to movement. And so I asked in that, what do you mean by fluidity? Is it fluidity in movement, as in continuity between skill A and skill B, which would be transitions? Fluidity in movement, as in coordination. So like, you can have the transitions, right? Like you can know how to transition from skill A to skill B, but how do you make the transition from skill A to skill B look the way that you want it to, without feeling like you look, crazy, or that you look like uncoordinated, right? So fluidity could mean that too, coordination. Or fluidity could mean fluidity in movement, as in giving off the appearance of something liquidized, right? So that could be, I don't know, water, it could be waves, it could be milk, it could be liquid metal, it could be lava, whatever it is that gives this appearance of like liquidized um patterns of movement and mobility. Fluidity could also mean that. And then the last kind of meaning that you could ascribe to fluidity is fluidity in movement, as in judgment free improvisation, which most people call flow. Like, so being able to consciously put all the things that you know together without feeling contrived, or without feeling like you are thinking about each movement before you do each movement, right? Or you're judging the movement as you do the movement, right? And I mean, there are ways to tell when people do that. I didn't get any clarity on which of the fluidity that they meant, but I definitely wanted to mention that in this conversation so that y'all could see that, like, when you say I want to be more fluid, or when you tell a teacher, or when you tell um, a dancer that you want to be more fluid, that there are so many meanings that they can assume without actually getting to the meaning that you actually are looking for. So just trying to provide some language around getting what it is that you feel like you need, or you believe that you need, um, and being kind of, digging in to get a little bit more specific. And again, some people are like, it's not that deep for me. I just want to look good on camera. I just want to look like I know what I'm doing. It's not that deep for me. Um, but again, the deeper your teacher can understand language and translate, and not just assume what it is that you need, um, the deeper you can go into your journey and get what you want. I think that's in life in general. So another response: what do you believe you need to learn in the context of pole? This response was weight transfer in heels, and weight transfer as in load transfer. Now, weight transfer is weight transfer. I mean, there isn't a lot of variation in meaning, I think, when it comes to weight transfer. I think the differentiation in meaning, or the differentiation for weight transfer, becomes how do you apply the weight transfer, right? So are we weight transferring in heels? So that would mean that you have 2 feet on the floor for for the weight transfers to happen. Are we weight transferring acrobatically? Whether that's on the floor, on the pole, on a chair, basing through something, right? Are we weight transferring acrobatically, or are we kind of load transferring? Which load transfer is another term for weight transfer, but I'm using them irrespective of each other, because when I say load transfer, I want in your brain to think about, okay, when I'm on spin, how do I continue to generate momentum? Because when you start to get into different shapes and you start to do different tricks, the momentum of the pole is going to respond. And I'll see a lot of times where people will want to do a certain combination, but they're not loading their weight in a way that creates continuous spin. And so they'll stop spinning after something and then have to generate the spin again, right? And that's for spin mode. And then on static mode, it's like, when we talk about load transfer, we talk about generating momentum in static rotation, or we talk about transitioning from one trick to the other, whether it's regripping from the hands to feet or feet to hands, but there's some sort of load transfer where the majority of the weight is moving from one base to another base. And y'all, I don't know, maybe y'all don't know, maybe y'all do know, but the queen of weight distribution, weight transfer in heels is Carmine Black. It just is. It just is. I don't make the rules. And I say that because from a methodology framework, you're going to learn weight transfer in heels like a language. And from that language, your skill is going to come. And I can tell you that from experience. All right. So we got like, I don't know. I think we got like 5 minutes left. I got like 3 more questions or 3 more responses that people gave me. Another response to what do you believe you need to learn in the context of pole was how to add my stank onto everything. How do you add your stank onto everything? Now, a lot of people will be like, oh, you just need to do it over and over again. You just need to da-da-da-da, woo, woo, woo. You just need to practice, 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 and then your stank will come. Well, honestly, I'm going to be honest. There are people that have been polling for a long time and they stank have not came. And it's because of the environment in which they practice. A lot of times they practice in an environment where they are given the stank, right? Like they're given, this is how you stylize a thing. This is how you give a thing aesthetic. This is how you make this look like this. They're not given the opportunity to really explore what their quote unquote personalized stank is. And so my follow-up questions to this were, do you not think that you put your own stank on something? Or do you not know enough about ways in which to add stank so that you can be exposed to it in different ways, so that you need to be exposed to it in different ways? So essentially the difference between those two questions are, do you believe that you have your own stank? And do you believe that you have enough information or enough substance, enough knowledge, enough wisdom to play with what you already have, right? And then the last question was, or are you asking for a space where you're able to explore what stank is or how to put stank on in a sort of ad-libbed way where you just kind of are doing something and then a person provides feedback about what it is that you're doing and like continuously ask you questions so that you guys can arrive to the place in which you're trying to go. So I think the difference is, are you looking for demonstrations? Are you looking for ways to practice? Or are you looking for a sort of collaborative environment where where there is no set expectation aside from addressing the question and trying to find solutions? So I didn't hear back from that person in terms of what they, what the clarity was around that. So there's that. But again, I'm reading these responses and I'm giving these sort of questions to even get your brain going on. Oh, let's get a little deeper. Let's dig a little deeper. If that's something that you want to do. So other questions that I'm going to respond to, or other responses that I'm going to respond to in terms of what do you believe you need to learn in the context of pole. Posture. Oh, posture. Somebody responded with posture. There's a lot of people that need to learn posture. Like not posture like shapes or posture like flexibility, but posture like the ways that you carry your body when you are moving. And yeah, the ways that you carry your body when you're moving, whether you're dancing or you're walking or even you're like on the floor doing like floor work and stuff like that, like the ways in which you carry your body. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna address that on the Instagram. And the last response to what do you believe you need to learn in the context of poll was how to stack my body while inverted. That motherfucking Aisha. Which I actually have a practical response to. If you are looking to learn how to stack your body, you should probably take Head Down, Ass Up. It is a pre-inversion course, meaning, and what I mean by pre-inversion is, even if you know how to invert, do you know what the function of inverting is? Even if you have the skill to invert, do you understand what the function of inverting is and how to sustain an invert? Because all of that is about body stacking. All of that is about body stacking. And if you're uncomfortable with your head underneath your butt, you're going to be uncomfortable body stacking. And so, Head Down, Ass Up pre-inversion course that's available on performancetemple.com. That's what that course is for. Is getting you used to being upside down and putting weight into your hands instead of your feet. All right, y'all. So we just passed the little 30-minute mark. I try to keep these at around 30 minutes or whatever like that. But I just wanted to hop on here and just go through these, talk them out loud, because I'm not posting all that in my stories. I'm not doing it. I will post clarifications and questions, but I'm not going to post my thoughts and my responses on Instagram, because there are some things that I don't know. And what is helpful for me is to talk about them, like out my mouth, to hear myself and to be like, okay, I might not know the answer with certainty, but here are the ways in which we can get to an answer. Whether the answer is for you or for me, listen, I don't have a judgment on that, but so that's where I'm at with it. Thank y'all for listening. I'm going to keep this unlisted. If you have questions, you can use the link in the description to send me an email, and we can have a conversation via email. Until next time, may his love and his light shine on you. Y'all know, love and light, love and light. Nah, but for real, when I say love and light, I mean whatever you need to cut through the bullshit of your life, to bring you to a place of clarity, to bring you to a place of satisfaction, to bring you into a new awareness that changes your entire outlook to one that is of abundance, and one that helps you to manage the pain with the pleasure. That's what I mean when I say love and light. I should say love and knives or something like that, because I really just want y'all to be able to cut through the BS. But until next time.